Hello, in this video I will show you my entire workflow for creating this floating skateboard 3D game in Godot 4.3 using only visual scripting. First, with my player already in the scene in Blender, I added a torus because I wanted to make the game to be like a marathon within the same racing field. I selected a part of the torus and extruded it inside to create the racing part. I then added a principal shader material to the whole torus and then added a glowing material to the floor of my racing track. I added a PBR material to the floor, connecting the albedo, metallic, roughness and normal texture to the appropriate channels, also making sure that I unwrap it properly. I created some extrusions on the wall to add more details to the track, with glowing materials and a different texture material too, in order to make it to stand out. I quickly modeled a simple skateboard from a cube and added it to the foot of my character by parenting it to the foot bone. I then used a reference video on a second screen to animate the player. This character was downloaded from mixamo.com, and to make my animation workflow to be easier, I added a basic skating animation to the character before downloading it. Watch my video on how to import Blender models with animation to see how to do it. The animation I did inside Blender was focused more on creating the forward, left and right tilting of the player movement. I then exported the player and the scene using the GLTF export. This format is the best for me in my workflow. After importing the player and the 3D scene in Godot 4.3, I made sure I re-imported the animation and set it to loop and save to file. I then adjusted the skateboard to keep it attached to the player during the animation. Adjusted some of the materials to look better in Godot and added a light source using a HDR image and a sunlight. I added a camera to the scene and attached it to the player. On the player, I added the animation tree node and created a transition for the animations which will be used for the visual scripting. Then I created a visual scripting for the player and saved it properly. If you want to learn step by step how I created a 3D character controller using visual scripting, watch my video on creating a 3D character controller with animation using visual scripting. The difference here is that I made the player to move forward automatically, and it also does not have gravity since it is floating. After adjusting some bone issues, I got the game working relatively fine. And that is how I created this 3D floating skateboard game in Godot 4.3 using only visual scripting.